MMA coverage has changed drastically over the last couple of years in terms of how people are getting their news. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about some of the fake aspects of MMA coverage that I'm seeing happening a lot. And I think a lot of this does tie together. And if you've never watched my content, my name is James Lynch. I'm an MMA journalist, reporter, content creator. I have my own YouTube channel and I interview a lot of fighters. So I have kind of a good perspective on this just because I come from traditional media, but I also understand the YouTube and social media side of media. And one of the things that keeps happening over and over again are fight announcements that have absolutely no substance to them. And this is something I noticed a few years ago, and it started with this rumor about Colby Covington and Khamzat Chimaev for UFC 271. And I interview Colby Covington a lot. I know him quite well. I knew at the time this was a fight that was not going to take place, but a lot of people ran with this idea, I think because people wanted to see the fight, but the person who reported this is an Instagram account that didn't have a lot of credibility at the time. And of course, this fight never ended up happening. Of course, Chimaev at the time of recording this fighting at middleweight. Colby Covington seems like he's going to be fighting for the welterweight title. But this was sort of the start of like big fight news that caught fire and people sort of went with it. And we had another example of this last year with the whole talk of Jorge Masvidal fighting Leon Edwards. Jorge Masvidal coming off a couple losses. I guess in an interview, and I found the old tweet from this, and I'm blacking up the names because it's not really important who reported this. We'll talk about what sources you should trust at the end of this video, but we can see the report here. Kamaru Usman may be out of the trilogy between him and Leon Edwards because of hand surgery. Wonder Boy says the UFC wants someone to fight in March, and the UFC are looking at Jorge Masvidal. And a lot of media, and I'm not talking legitimate media, I'm just talking outlets in general, ran with this story that Masvidal was going to be the next guy to fight Leon Edwards because Usman may or may not have been out. And it was so bad that so many outlets were reporting in it that Thompson himself had to come out and say, hey friends, my bad. Meant to say I wouldn't be surprised if they made Leon and Masvidal fight. I have no idea what the UFC is planning to do as of now. It's still Leon and Usman. This is what I mean. This is happening more and more. And this was taken from an interview that Thompson did with someone. And again, I'm not going to call them out here, but they just sort of ran with this idea that Thompson had some inside information out on this. And look, even if that was the case, the way they worded this tweet was fine because they said Kamaru Usman may be out of this fight. It's a little tidbit here, but unfortunately, a lot of outlets, a lot of Instagram accounts, a lot of social media accounts ran with this idea that the UFC was looking to make Masvidal. So much so that Usman's manager, Kamaru Usman's manager at the time, or still his manager, I guess, the same guy who did this interview with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson put this tweet out saying Kamaru Usman will not be fighting Leon Edwards next since Kamaru is having hand surgery. His manager then chimes in and says fake news, and then Wonderboy also chiming in saying, I think this is the most drama I've ever started in my life, my bad. But it's not Thompson's fault here. It's the fault of the reporter who did the interview, who acted like this was a fact. Fighters, they're not matchmakers. They might have some insight, but the way to word this would be, it sounds like, I would have put it this way. It seems like there's some idea that Usman might be out of the fight. Like him even saying this will not be fighting Leon Edwards next. There's no proof of that. What the person should have done was reached out to Usman's camp, reached out to Leon Edwards' camp and get some sources or get some idea of if this is actually happening. But the person didn't do that, and a bunch of media ran with it. And then we got this whole kerfuffle. And again, I remember at the time when this was announced, I thought there's no way the UFC is going to give Jorge Masvidal a title shot after a couple losses. We've seen fighters get title shots off losses before, but 2 losses in a row, that's a pretty tough sell here. So that's another example of another fake fight news announcement that never took place. Okay, here's a couple other ones. And again, not going to call out the accounts here, but this is another example of something similar. Breaking, Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee 2 is in the works per Kevin Lee. Okay, so Kevin Lee says that he might be interested in fighting Tony. This graphic's really deceiving. Breaking means something is official and it's happening. This is not breaking news. This fight never ended up happening. Kevin Lee, when he returned to the UFC, ended up fighting Renat. Tony Ferguson, we saw just this past weekend, ended up fighting Bobby Green. Total BS. But this is what a lot of these accounts do, is they will post this to get your attention, to think, oh, they're really in the know. But it was all BS and there's no accountability. I grabbed this post today. It's still up there. What the person should have done is come out and said, oh, this fight with Bobby Green's happening. We apologize. We got some bad info or whatever. But this is totally deceiving clickbait stuff right now. And this is, again, the difference between traditional media and sort of the new media. And the new media is these Instagram accounts that do stuff like this. Same account. Fight news. Okay, how else would you read this? Fight news. You would read this as this fight's happening. Fight news. Strong rumors going around that Jones Miocic is off and Jones Pavlovic is being pursued for UFC 293 in Australia, per Chael Sonnen. I can't even begin to tell you how this doesn't make any sense. First and foremost, they announced the Australia card with the idea Israel Adesanya is going to headline the card, which would make sense. He's from New Zealand. you know, big audience there. They're going to tune in for that. Why would Jon Jones fly to Australia and fight Sergey Pavlovich when the whole idea of him moving up to heavyweight was to fight Stipe? We know that's BS. Pavlovich does not have a fight right now. Jon Jones is confirmed as fighting Stipe. Again, super misleading here in the title saying fight news. It's not official. I would have put the title as rumor. Per Chael Sonnen, this is happening. That's different than fight news. If you're glancing on your phone and you see this, you have people, and by the way, this report, I did a video on why I don't think Jon Jones and Sergey Pavlovich will ever happen. I had a bunch of people commenting on my video saying, oh, you were wrong. You were wrong. No, I'm not wrong. This is fake. This is absolutely fake. This did not end up happening. And again, this is how these new media people are going about things. And I'm not going to group them all together. There's ones worse than others, but this is just totally deceiving and fake news if I've ever seen it. Again, I know Sonnen said it, but you can't put fight news here. You have to put rumors. And again, this post is still up there. They didn't delete it even after the fact that they have Stipe Miocic and Jon Jones fighting at UFC 295. So that, again, very disappointing to see that. Now, in terms of where you should get your news, okay, I think it's pretty obvious. And we'll go through some of the websites here. MMA Junkie, okay, goes without saying. MMA Junkie, 100%. MMA Fighting, 100%. Get your news there. ESPN MMA. Same thing. Until any of these three sites confirm it, don't believe it's 100% true at that time, because what's happening is you're getting a lot of these new accounts. They're trying to make a name for themselves. So they put clickbaity stuff in here like fight news and breaking on stuff that could just be complete rumors, could be just anything. And people run with it. And then I have to hear about it on my live stream saying, oh, did you hear about this fight being booked? The most recent example we just had was this whole thing with Ikram and Paulo Costa, where everyone was in a rush to condemn Paulo Costa and saying that he pulled out of the fight. And that's not what ended up happening. Here we go. Ikram Paulo Costa off according to Ikram's camp. The new fight in the works is Ikram and Roman Dolidze. Someone reached out to Dolidze, which is the proper thing to do in a situation like this. And they ended up talking to Dolidze, and he's like, no, I don't have anything in the works. I don't have anything booked at all. Totally fake. And the person who, so the outlet that put this out here said per, and then it's some Twitter account. Go look on that person's Twitter account real quick. 82 followers, 550 followers. That's not a legit journalist. So the outlet here that reported this is in the wrong because first off, they're sourcing someone who's a complete nobody. How it works in the industry, if you want to be a breaking news person, you got to break, news bit by bit. That's how Marcel, Nolan King, all these guys started. You sort of break news bit by bit on a smaller scale. And then you get this is a big deal, this fight announcement, right? I mean, it's part of a big card. If it's coming from some random person, don't take it for face value. Again, in most cases, there's very few times maybe something like that works out, but I at the time thought this might have been possible, but I also thought, like, who is this person that's reporting this? And again, if you do a little bit of digging here, this person's got 550 followers. The worst part is, kind of like I mentioned with those Instagram posts as well, there's no apology, there's no retraction, there's no, oh, we got it bad or this happened. There's none of that. And they don't have to, because a lot of these accounts, even that Instagram account I showed you earlier, there's no face, there's no person behind it. It's just an outlet and they can do whatever they want. And to me, that's really bad. It's really bad because you're deceiving people and and then people complain about the media. Oh, fake news, fake news. That isn't legitimate media. That is clout chasers who are trying to make a name for themselves. It's as simple as that. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about here is fake news. This is happening over and over and over again. People running with things, not doing their research. It's fine to discuss potential things, right? I did a video, last week talking about Sean Strickland may not be fighting Israel Adesanya for the title next, but I was very clear about that in the title of the video and the title of the topic itself. There's a difference between that and deceiving people and saying breaking, this fight's happening. So just wanted to get that out there because I think when it comes to MMA news and coverage, people don't really know who to trust. And like I said, you can't go wrong with ESPN MMA, MMA Fighting, MMA Junkie, Marcel, Cole Shelton, you name it. There's a lot of people who do really great work and don't get enough credit for it. And that's part of why I wanted to do this video as well, is trust the right sources. Don't trust some guy with 500 followers who has zero credibility. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to fake MMA media. Here's another thing I'm seeing, and I think this all kind of ties together. Okay. YouTube channels buying views. This is something I see happen more and more now. And again, not going to call out the channel specifically. Okay. So here's one they did with Max Griffin. Okay. So this was a Max Griffin interview. And just to give you a little context and how you can know this is fake is look at Max Griffin's views on other YouTube channels. This is all the Max Griffin stuff you can find. MMA Junkie has how many subscribers here? They have 311,000 subscribers. So almost 300,000 more than that channel I just showed you. They had a video with Max Griffin that only did 9,000 views. Okay, maybe that's just a one-off, no big deal. Max Griffin Octagon interview with the UFC. UFC has over 1 million subscribers, right? 16.5 million subscribers for the UFC. A Max Griffin Octagon interview 9 months ago only did 19,000 views. So you're telling me that this channel, who only has 1,000, just over 1,000, almost 2,000 subscribers here, has a video that is higher viewed than this? I don't buy it. And here's your proof even further. You look at the comments on the video from Max Griffin. So it's got 438 likes and 60 comments, which kind of makes sense, although even those numbers are a little bit low. 60 comments for 36,000 views is actually really low if you think about it. Read some of these contents. Love the podcast. Keep doing it. Love, what do we got here? Checked in out of sheer curiosity and stayed with sheer liveness in my heart. What a shame I didn't have the opportunity to be able to be with you right there. This is exactly the type of material I needed here. They're fake comments. These are all fake. Not all of them, but my luck guided me to this podcast. Who's writing that on a Max Griffin interview? How can you ever outdo this? So I'm pretty sure this podcast is buying views. I went and looked at some of their other stuff as well. Here's another one they have. This is an interview they did with a BKFC fighter. 21,000 views, 11 likes, 0 comments. It's fake. They're buying views. You don't have 21,000 views on a video and 0 comments. It makes no sense whatsoever. And then if you look on this channel in terms of some of their content, they're getting 20 views on a video. How does that happen if one video or a couple of videos, or like I showed you here, 34,000 views on a certain one? By the way, the numbers are very similar too. 34,000, 34,000. This one here, 31,000, 28,000, 31,000. They're buying views. Not every channel does this, but you do see this now and then. And it's not just them. I've seen other channels as well here too. Here's a post-fight press conference for UFC 289. 16,000 views, 11 likes, 2 comments, 3 comments. And what are the comments here? Very good edit presentation. I speak of compression, legacy, whatever. And I don't believe the crap that comes out of your mouth. Took the opportunity to duck and run. So this is just Dana White, Charles Oliveira, Amanda Nunes, UFC 289. 16,000 views, 3 comments, 11 likes. It's fake. They're buying followers, or some bot is hitting that YouTube channel and doing that. I mean, the other channel I just showed you, they're clearly buying followers. This one, I think it could just be a bot, but this is an easy way to find out if someone is buying views. I hear people talk about buying subscribers. Again, the way to find all that out is check out the consistency of views on their channel. Check out the likes and comments. It's an easy way to know if someone's buying views. Buying views is something I see more common, but you do see people buying subscribers as well. Now, there could be a couple ways they do this. I've seen people that, steal footage and they, post highlights on YouTube, and then they get caught, and then they delete all the videos, and then they have all the subscribers, and then they just post, they might have like 3 videos after the fact. You'll see stuff like that, where channels have built up huge amount of subscribers, and then they just delete all the content, and then they just have these built-in subscribers, but their videos are not viewing very well. So these are like little things that I've noticed as well. So just keep an eye out. If you see something that's really, viewed well, always look at the likes and the comments, and that will be your solution in terms of whether or not they're legit views or not. So that's another thing to kind of keep an eye out. And again, some people are doing it to try and act like they're bigger than they really are. There's others that, like I think in this case, it was just a bot that hit it. But just another reminder of some of the fakeness that you're going to see here as well. Okay, last thing I want to talk about here, my third point, and don't really have a good visual to use, but this is something I see a lot. People who go cover MMA events and then they act like they're doing it full time. I got a problem with that. If you guys know me on a lot of my streams and stuff, I'm a freelancer. I don't work for a big outlet. I don't work for an outlet that covers all my expenses when I go cover events. I'm very clear about this. Usually, in most cases, I have to pay for my travel, my hotel, to go cover a UFC event. And people ask, James, why would you do that? You're going to be losing money. It's an investment. If I go to an event, it's a good way to network, good way to meet contacts. It's a good way to get content. So there's a lot of different ways of how I go about covering events, but I pay things out of my pocket. There are people that go to events, especially Bellator, PFL, you name it, and they act like they're doing this full time. And when people say, man, you're living the dream, if you're paying your own way to go somewhere, you're not exactly living the dream. You know what I mean? Like, I think people that don't cover this sport full time want to act like they are, and they act like they've got it made. To me, you're only made if you're doing this full time. You've made it if you're making a living covering the sport. Now, I don't have an outlet that can send me over there, but I still have credentials, and I have had outlets pay everything before. Like, it's not just, just recently it hasn't been like that. But kind of the point I'm getting at is that, I think there's a misconception on who's covering MMA. I'd say there are probably 20% of the media, if we're using like 100% point scale, I think 20% of MMA media is full-time. It might even be lower than that. You might even go 15% around there. There's a lot of people who do this full-time or part-time. There's a lot of people who do this and have day jobs. And like I said, do it on the side. And then there's a lot of people that do this for free. They just post content and they're not making any money. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the honesty about it. Because I'll tell you this right now, and I've done videos on this as well about how to get credentials. If you have a YouTube channel, if you start a blog, if you start doing things, just on your own and you apply for a Bellator or PFL, chances are they'll approve you. Bellator and PFL in particular, and other promotions as well, are very lenient about who they let cover their events. So let's say I started a YouTube channel a couple days ago. Let's say I made 20 videos or something over the last little bit, and I go and apply for Bellator and they approve me. Okay, I go to that Bellator event. Now I'm going on my own, okay? And Bellator's approved me, it's great. I'm paying for everything to go. I'm paying my gas, my hotel, my food, all that stuff. I'm doing that. And I'm going to the event and I take a photo saying, oh, this is my office for the day. And turns out that I'm paying my own way to do it. So am I really living the dream if I'm paying my own way to do this? No, you're not there yet. Doesn't mean you can't get there. And I have a lot of respect for people who grind in this industry and do get paid work. It's hard to do. But don't sit there and act like you've made it. And I feel a lot of younger people do that when it comes to people that are new in the industry. They want to act like they've got it made, like they're on par with like a John Morgan or Ariel Helwani in terms of establishment in the industry because they do it part-time. I got a problem with that. And that to me falls under this whole fake thing of people pretending there's something they're not. If you are making a full-time living doing this, covering, MMA, whether it's you're doing like I am as a freelancer or you work for an MMA junkie or MMA fighting or all that, all the power to you. But that is not the same as someone who has a full-time job and is just doing this on the side and maybe he's making a bit of money, but that's not the same as someone who's doing it full-time. So just wanted to point that out as well, because it's another thing I see on social media, people being like, wow, you've really made it. You haven't made it yet. You're getting there. Not to say you can't make it, but that's another sort of fake aspect of this industry that absolutely drives me nuts, because you're lumping everyone together and there's people that have actually worked their ass off to establish themselves in the industry as opposed to people who are just doing this as a hobby. So there we go. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Anything here I've mentioned that you didn't know about? I would love to hear your feedback. I love talking about the industry in general in terms of MMA media and coverage. I think it's really important when it comes to how we're consuming our content. And like I said, years ago, a lot of it was just written stuff. Now we've gone to video, and now we've gone even past video to clips, to, Instagram accounts reporting news, to TikTok accounts reporting news. The medium's changing. I get all that, but make sure you know what are the sources to trust when it comes to getting your news and your information. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. I'm James Lynch. If there's any other topics you guys want me to cover here, more than happy to do that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.